Whenever you're ready.
So, by a show of hands, how many of us watch, play, or follow a sport? So, for most of us, watching or playing a sport is a part of our way of life. Imagine being able to being unable to watch or play that sport. Many of us would be devastated. You may think this never happens, but in reality it does. For many sports, this is a common reoccurring theme. Over the past couple of years, this has happened in the NFL as well as the NBA. Unfortunately, this is also happening in the NHL. One of the greatest bonds this community has is watching NHL games with other fans and talking about the numerous trades and injuries that have occurred. It's a bond that cannot be broken. But like most of these lockouts, the problem deals with money. Specifically, the contract between the players and general managers, known as the collective bargaining agreement, has expired. Since the players and general managers cannot come to a new agreement, the NHL commissioner has decided to cancel many NHL games around the nation. Unfortunately, this is not the only lockout that has occurred under this commissioner. And if no agreement is reached, this entire season may be forfeited, and the effects would be astonishing. So what is the collective bargaining agreement? To put it simply, the CBA is a contract between the National Hockey League and the National Hockey League Players Association, which is basically a labor union to protect the players. The CBA is not something unique to the NHL. Every professional sport has one. The CBA outlines the terms and agreements for contracts, as well as how income is distributed between both the NHL and the Players Association. For instance, the CBA deals with salary caps and minimums for the players, as well as how to distribute hockey-related revenue. Hockey-related revenue is basically any revenue generated from hockey. For instance, gate tickets, concessions, or ads during hockey broadcasts are all considered hockey-related revenue. The most recent CBA expired in September, and since then the two parties have failed to come to an agreement on how to split the $3 billion hockey-related revenues. Currently, the players have a guaranteed share of 57% for all HRR, and the general managers want to bring this down to 43%. But since these two parties cannot come to an agreement, the NHL commissioner has decided to postpone the opening of the NHL season. At first, the season opener was pushed back from October 11th to October 25th. This delay resulted in 82 hockey games not being played. If an agreement were reached soon enough, though, these games could be made up. Unfortunately, no agreement or progress has been made, and the season opener has been pushed back even further. Currently, the NHL is unsure if these missed games will be played later in the season, and in fact, many hockey fans as well as hockey-related news sources believe the first game of the season will be the Winter Classic, in which Detroit will play Toronto. Unfortunately, this is not the only time there has been an NHL lockout, and ironically, this is not the only time there has been an NHL lockout under the current NHL commissioner, Gary Bettman. The season of 94 to 95 was shortened from 82 games to just 48, when the two parties could not reach an agreement on player salary caps. If I were to ask you guys who the Stanley Cup winners of the past season were, you would probably know, right? Does anybody know? Last year?
Oh.
Is it Vancouver?
No.
Oh, no, it's Kings. Oh, Kings.
Yes, the Kings. And the season before that was Boston. But does anybody know the Stanley Cup winner of 2004-2005?
Devils?
Lightning.
Actually, it's a trick question. There was no Stanley Cup winner. The season was actually not played. It was delayed for 10 months. And on the Stanley Cup, there is an engraving that says season not played. Although the lockout has left many fans disappointed in the NHL, there are some bigger consequences which have arose. Since the delay of the season opener, the NHL has lost over $100 million in hockey-related revenue. Ironically, this is the topic which the current CBA is dealing with. However, it isn't just the NHL that is losing money. Many of the big hockey states, including Detroit, Boston, or Pennsylvania, to name a few, are losing money as well. During the hockey season, many local businesses, such as restaurants, pubs, or bars, bring in a lot of extra revenue. For instance, Detroit News wrote a story on a local pub which had to lay off as many as 40 workers because it's not seeing this extra income. And another story from Pittsburgh's Post-Gazette discusses how local Pittsburgh restaurants make nearly 70% of its business during the NHL season. So although you may not consider yourself a hockey fan, this is an issue that affects everyone. Maybe you're a fan of a different sport, such as the NFL or NBA, but this is a trend that occurs in all major league sports. Most sports have a collective bargaining agreement which discusses how income is distributed between the players and the general managers. But since these two groups cannot come to an agreement in the NHL, a lot of local businesses are losing money and have to lay off workers. So this is an issue that needs to be solved soon.